Hey everyone, we've got a few interesting topics to dive into in this video. Let's start with a headline from CoinGape. XRP ETF set to eclipse ETH and Solana-based ETFs, according to Canary Capital's CEO. Well, no surprises there. Honestly, if we're talking about altcoins, XRP clearly stands out. It's obvious, just look at the interest levels when you compare other top altcoins. XRP has way more buzz around it, especially when it comes to spot ETFs. More firms are filing for XRP ETFs than any other altcoin right now. Last I checked, there were 11 different companies applying to launch XRP ETFs. For context, Solana is in second place with about 7 filings, though that might have increased to 8 or 9 since then, but still, XRP is leading the pack. Why? Because it's generating the most interest, plain and simple. Do you have any idea how much money is going to pour into XRP because of this? XRP is finite. There's only so much of it to go around. Sure, 100 billion XRP might sound like a lot, but when you step back and realize that less than 1% of people worldwide have ever owned a single XRP, it puts things in perspective. And remember, XRP already hit an all-time high of $3.40 this year. So imagine what happens when the whole world starts recognizing that XRP just makes sense and it becomes widely adopted. What we're seeing right now, it's just the tip of the iceberg. XRP is truly scarce. There simply isn't enough of it when big money starts moving in. And when major firms inevitably get the green light to launch XRP ETFs, that's going to send shockwaves through the market. Here's why. When people buy those ETFs, the companies behind them need to actually hold XRP to back them. So the more demand for these ETFs, the more XRP those firms will have to buy. And that's going to drive even more money into XRP itself over the next decade. Here's something important to understand. When you buy an XRP ETF, you're not actually holding XRP in your own wallet, but the firm you're buying that ETF from is. So every purchase you make indirectly increases demand for real XRP, tightening supply and impacting price in a very real way. That's why this matters so much for XRP's future. But let's pause for a second because there's some tension building in the crypto world. Check out this headline. First crypto bill vote fails to get 100% Republican support despite Trump's call. Yep, even with Trump weighing in, they couldn't push it through. And just so you know, it's something significant is going down today. Even the president has teased it, and I'll break that down later in this video. Quick reminder before we go further, I don't have a financial background and this isn't financial advice. Please don't base any buying or selling decisions on what I say. Always take the time to do your own research and think critically. All right, let's dive into this first story. And here's the thing. If you think XRP makes sense, you're in some pretty good company. It's not just you or me thinking this way. Some of the smartest, wealthiest, and most forward-thinking people around the globe are coming to the same conclusion. XRP just works. That's exactly why the money isn't slowing down. It's only going to keep flowing in as time goes on. Here's a perfect example. The CEO of Canary Capital has come out with a bold prediction. He believes the XRP ETF could actually outperform both Ethereum and Solana ETF products. And this isn't just random speculation. There's real momentum here with chatter about an XRP ETF potentially getting approved very soon. In a recent interview shared by Paul Barron, Canary Capital CEO, Stephen McClurg made a strong case for XRP's potential to outshine the competition. And there's a little interesting detail here. McClurg mentioned something called a 33 Act fund. At first I was like, wait, what's that? Turns out he's referencing the Securities Act of 1933. He's basically pointing out that XRP falls under the Securities Act of 1933, but not XRP itself. He's talking about the fund tied to XRP. That's the part that needs SEC approval, just to clarify. Here's what he said. There's now a clear court precedent that XRP isn't a security. It can easily move into a 33 Act fund. Out of all pending products, I think the XRP ETF will gain the most traction. Pretty interesting, right? Especially since crypto investors are keeping a close eye on the Ethereum and Solana ETF proposals, which are seen as the next big steps after Bitcoin ETFs. Things are really heating up in the crypto space. Listen up, everyone. I've been saying this for ages, and it's no surprise to see it playing out now. Back when XRP was facing all that pressure from the SEC, I said it loud and clear. Under a level playing field, XRP will shine. And look what's happening. With a pro-crypto administration now in place, and XRP declared not a security, it's thriving. In fact, XRP is outperforming Bitcoin and even Ethereum in this cycle. And trust me, it's only the beginning. By the time this market cycle wraps up, we're going to see some serious action. Just wait and see. To put it into perspective, the rise of crypto ETF shows how much potential growth we're looking at over time. It's massive. Just take a look at the headline from the Daily Hodl. It really highlights what's coming next. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF has surged past $80 billion faster than any other exchange-traded fund in history. According to senior Bloomberg analyst Eric Balchunas, the iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, ticker symbol IBIT, recently crossed this milestone, reaching a valuation of $83 billion and ranking as the 21st largest ETF overall. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, Balchunas remarked, IBIT blew through the $80 billion mark on Friday, the fastest ETF to reach that level in just 374 days. That's roughly 5 times quicker than the previous record set by VOO, which took 1,814 days. Welcome to crypto, folks. While some may speculate whether XRP can replicate or outperform this meteoric rise, Bitcoin's dominance remains undeniable. It holds the strongest brand recognition and continues to attract the most attention, even if its growth potential arguably lags behind opportunities like XRP. That said, XRP doesn't need to surpass Bitcoin's performance to succeed. The outlook for XRP remains highly promising. Its trajectory is expected to be impressive and, quite frankly, wildly successful. What really matters is the long game, the total amount of capital that flows in over years and decades. And on that note, there's another development worth noting. XRP News today. ProShares is launching an XRP futures ETF on July 18th, 2025, giving institutional investors easier access. I won't dive into the article, but the highlights are clear. This ETF is futures-based, not spot, so it won't involve holding actual XRP. Still, the move shines a spotlight on XRP. As many observers have pointed out, even a futures ETF helps bolster market confidence. And I'd say that's a fair assessment. There's also a post from John Deaton weighing in on all of this. As many will remember, attorney Deaton represented 75,000 XRP holders, tirelessly fighting for years and doing so pro bono, simply because he was outraged by the SEC's aggressive stance against XRP investors worldwide. So naturally, I was curious what he had to say about this latest development. In response to the news, Deaton wrote, 2 years ago, a federal judge declared XRP itself not a security, which is what 75,000 XRP holders fought for. 2 years later, XRP ETFs go live. God bless free markets. He's absolutely right. It's a remarkable turnaround. Just a bit over 2 years ago, there were serious doubts as to whether XRP would even be allowed to operate in the US. And now, no fewer than 11 firms have filed applications for spot XRP ETFs. It's wild to see this unfold. Honestly, you love to see it. Next up, the first crypto bill vote didn't get full Republican support despite Trump's call to back it. Let me walk you through this quickly. There's something else that's about to happen today, and I want to lay this out properly. First things first, we did hear from President Trump, and it definitely sounds like some movement is coming today. So hang in there with me. There's a lot of chatter about this right now, and I actually shared some of my own thoughts on it yesterday. In just a moment, I'll show you exactly what I had to say. Here's something Paul Barron posted yesterday, and if you're not familiar, he runs a very popular tech-focused YouTube channel that dips into crypto coverage from time to time. He's got around 1.55 million subscribers, so his take tends to get a lot of attention. Yesterday afternoon, that would be Tuesday, he shared this update. Breaking. 210 Democrats and 13 Republicans voted against advancing the Crypto Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Act. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene led the Republican opposition to advancing. I expect her to flip-flop once the president puts on some pressure. Let your lawmakers know this is not the way for freedom. Honestly, it shouldn't surprise anyone who's been following the space that 210 Democrats would oppose progress on crypto policy, but it's still frustrating. You'd think they'd have learned something from what happened in 2024, but apparently not. It's just the same tired playbook. There's no such thing as an anti-crypto voter base. It just doesn't exist. Sure, there are people who don't care for crypto, but that's not going to drive their vote. They don't have any skin in the game. On the flip side, if you do own crypto, well, this kind of thing is going to piss you off, no question about it. And when you're frustrated like that, you're far less likely to vote for the folks standing in crypto's way. How have they not figured this out yet? Crypto isn't partisan, but they're the ones turning it into a partisan issue. It's astonishing. How dense can they possibly be? Actually, don't answer that. I'll answer it for you. They have no brains, none, just empty space. Honestly, it's like applesauce mixed with mashed potatoes up there, just sloshing around. But still, what's up with these 13 Republicans? At this point, being pro-crypto is basically part of the Republican Party platform. It really is. So for 13 Republicans to vote against this, what on earth is wrong with these people? I'm not going to list every one of them here, but if you're curious, their names are right there on your screen. These are the members of Congress who voted to block this thing from moving forward. The list was shared by Eleanor Terrett. She's a journalist and host at Crypto America and was previously with Fox Business. Yeah, this vote didn't exactly go well. Then we get to the argument itself. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a sitting member of Congress, explained her position this way, quote, "This week, the House is voting on the Genius Act, which lays the groundwork for a layered central bank digital currency where Americans interact with stablecoins." Here's the thing. Behind the scenes, there's the issue of surveillance that comes with a central bank digital currency, CBDC. The bill as written doesn't explicitly ban a CBDC and fails to protect self-custody. And just to be clear, self-custody means you control your own money, not some third party. On January 23rd, President Trump signed an executive order on digital financial technology that included two key provisions. One, ensuring people retain self-custody of their digital assets. Two, banning federal agencies from creating a CBDC in the US or anywhere abroad. The Genius Act, however, doesn't align with that executive order because it doesn't include a clear ban on CBDCs. What's more, House leadership didn't permit any amendments that would have added such a ban, and that's something that arguably shouldn't be tolerated. But here's the question, is this critique actually fair? Well, hang with me, I'll get to that answer shortly. Then there's a post from Representative Thomas Massey, who weighed in too. He said that House leadership blocked his proposed amendments to the act, amendments that would have explicitly prohibited central bank digital currencies as well. And here's what Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna had to say. She's one of the 3 Republicans I'm highlighting here, though remember, there were 13 in total. She posted, "I support crypto, but cannot get behind anything that allows for a backdoor to a central bank digital currency. There was a vote to allow legislation to come to the floor that would enable that to happen. Thus, I voted no. Happy to support any pro-crypto bill, but I will not back CBDCs." Now that sounds principled on the surface, and if there were an actual backdoor for a CBDC in this bill, I think plenty of folks would rightly be outraged. But here's the thing, is that really the case? The answer is no. Eleanor Terrett also chimed in on this. She shared a screen grab from the Genius Act itself and offered some helpful context. Here's what she pointed out. Many of the House members who voted no today said they were concerned that the Genius Act might somehow enable a CBDC. But the bill actually contains language that explicitly prohibits the Fed from creating a retail CBDC. In particular, it states that the bill shall not be construed as expanding the Fed's authority to offer services directly to the public, meaning it can't authorize digital wallets, personal accounts, or anything that looks like a CBDC. So folks, if the government explicitly can't do it, and that's spelled out right there in the text, then self-custody really does mean you manage your assets yourself. And it also means this bill does prevent the creation of a CBDC. This is an opinion, it's right there plain as day. So seriously, what the hell are these Republicans thinking? What exactly is wrong with them functionally? In fact, as I'll show in a post later in this thread, the Genius Act already includes language that prevents a CBDC from ever coming into existence. And just to clarify, what I'm referencing here is that post from Eleanor Terrett I shared earlier. So there you have it. That's literal proof right in the text of the Genius Act. The protection is there. So all this talk about the bill enabling a CBDC is pure nonsense. And they have to know that unless this is just plain incompetence, which honestly is entirely possible, I actually share some thoughts on that too in this thread. Anyway, I also wrote that the language preventing a CBDC is written as a broad catch-all provision. And frankly, that's a smart way to go about it. Here's the thing. If you explicitly ban a CBDC by name, but bad actors in government still want one, they'll just rename it and tweak the details so that it technically doesn't fit the definition of a CBDC. That's the loophole they'd exploit. Honestly, I'm inclined to believe this situation is more about incompetence than malicious intent, at least when it comes to the Republicans who voted against advancing the Genius Act today. And frankly, that seems like the most likely explanation. I really think this is just plain incompetence. Whatever they believe, they're wrong. And if they're being so stubborn that they won't support this unless the words central bank digital currency are explicitly banned, well, my goodness, that's just incompetence too. The protections are already there. Use logic, folks. Use logic. Just look at what I showed you from Eleanor Tourette. Seriously, use your brain here. That language makes it impossible for a CBDC to happen. If the bill says you can't do the thing, then it doesn't matter whether you call it a central bank digital currency or slap a different name on it or try to create a new service that's essentially the same. You still can't do it. The bill flat out says so. The protection is already baked in. You don't need the specific phrase central bank digital currency written out. I mean, sure, I wouldn't care if those exact words were included, but the point is they don't need to be, period. And as for the Democrats, they keep catering to a voter bloc that simply doesn't exist. Yes, there are Americans who dislike crypto, but it's not something that drives their vote at the ballot box. By making crypto a partisan issue, the Democrats are being both wrong and frankly a bit stupid. I'm still optimistic this will get worked out in the end, but wow, some people really are just bad at this. Facepalm emoji. Aptly placed, if you ask me. And then there's this post from Caitlin Long, founder and CEO of Custodia Bank and a true Bitcoin veteran. She's been in this space since 2012. So yeah, she's seen it all. She chimed in with a much needed dose of perspective. Before y'all freak out, don't forget that the first procedural vote in the Senate on the Genius Act failed as well. The second one passed 11 days later. In other words, relax. This isn't doomsday. I don't think it's anywhere near the end of the road. Sure, there's a lot on the line, no doubt about that, but this is politics. Sometimes things stall and then they move fast. And honestly, look at this next development. This is the real kicker. This is why I said it feels like something's actually about to happen today. You can just sense it in the air. And then we get this post from President Donald J. Trump himself on social media. He says, I am in the Oval Office with 11 of the 12 congressmen and women necessary to pass the Genius Act. After a short discussion, they have all agreed to vote tomorrow morning in favor of the rule. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was at the meeting via telephone and looks forward to taking the vote as early as possible. I want to thank the congressmen and women for their quick and positive response. Make America great again. So yeah, this could actually move forward today. Maybe we'll finally get some freaking good news here, but let's be real, this whole delay was idiotic from the start. These ridiculous theatrics, God, it's infuriating. What is functionally wrong with these representatives? It's absurd. Can they not just apply some basic logic? The protections they claim to want, they're already in the damn Genius Act. It's right there. Clear as day. You can't have a central bank digital currency. Not under this bill. You don't need the words central bank digital currency explicitly spelled out to make it impossible. This isn't rocket science. Seriously, this is not hard. I'm telling you, little bitches, I'm just telling you. That said, I do think it's going to be fine. It's going to pass. I'm almost certain of it. I bet on it, honestly. But wow, this kind of stuff really burns my biscuits. It's just maddening. I don't have much tolerance to begin with, but my patience really runs out when we're talking about incompetence at this level. They're playing games with people's financial lives, and I don't appreciate that. I've got skin in the game here. This matters to me. Do they? I'm sure the answer is no. Nobody's asking for this circus, okay? Anyway, I'm signing off for now, but feel free to chime in and tell me what you think. Personally, I'm crossing my fingers that a little later today, we finally get some headlines worth smiling about, that things calm down and work out. And hey, quick disclaimer, I'm not your financial advisor. Thank God for that. Seriously, don't go buying or selling anything just because of what I say or write here. That would be, let's be honest, a terrible idea, like catastrophically bad.